Hello, hello, and welcome to Airica on Air. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, and come chat with me. Today we have a very talented person in the studio. I'm so excited to introduce y'all to him. He's pretty special to me too. This is my uncle. His name is Mark HOUSER, and he has had an incredible career in the music industry. He's a singer and songwriter. I am so honored to have you here today on the podcast, and welcome to Airica on Air. I can't wait to introduce you to everybody.
Thank you, Airica. It's good to be here.
It's great to have you here. I want to learn about how you've wrote these songs, and I want to share all about what it's like being in the music industry, growing up, and how that you were able to reach all of those really cool things.
Sounds good to me.
What age did you start getting into music?
Well, my mother says, your grandmother, that give me a pen and a paper, and I was satisfied when I was in first or second grade. So I started writing even before I remember it. The first song I remember writing was in fourth grade, and it wasn't very good, but it was about a girl, and I sang it to her. So we went steady for
I think I've heard
weeks.
This one. I've heard this story.
And then I had a poem that your mother, my sister, entered in a national contest, and it ended up winning something. I don't know what.
Is it in your newest book that's got poems?
It's in the book Seeds.
Okay.
And yeah, I love a girl I know not where she is I'll find. I love her and I really care. When I find her, she's mine. Some people don't believe I will, but that's not really true.
Some people don't believe me
still, but I have an ideal. That girl I love is you.
I know it.
So she entered it and won, and she said, well, I won. And I said, that's my song. She said, well, we won.
That's the way it works. Well, Granny's always said that about you when I was growing up, because I love pen and paper too. I would love to just sit, but I still never was able to make anything of it. It was just, I just loved sitting writing. The most it ever got was a thank you note. That's about as far as I ever got with it. But
I've read some of your stuff. It's pretty good.
No.
The marriage between the lyrics, the English language just amazes me, because sometimes you can take those words that are random words that people say, but you put them in a certain order and they create emotion in everybody. Mm-hmm. And that's what you try to do as a songwriter. You try to create an emotion, whether it's a happy emotion or sad emotion or, let's go out and have a big time emotion, whatever it is, you're trying to create that through those words.
Or recall a memory. I think songs can call back a memory quicker than just about anything. I say songs and smells. Like there's certain dishes I cook for my kids, and I'll say I'm at Monday night and I'm back in Granny's kitchen. Like if pinto beans have been cooking all day in the kitchen, I'm there. Like there's just certain things.
Exactly.
Or the sound of cutting her cornbread and the smell. Like I use her old cornbread pan and cut it, and that's how songs are. They really do have a way to make people just go completely back in that exact moment.
Like the Trisha Yearwood song, the song Remembers When.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's true. It does. It does in my case, too. I can pull out almost any song out of my repertoire. I guess I've got a couple thousand, and I can pinpoint when I wrote that and what I was thinking.
Is it true for songwriters that they write best when they're going through a hard time?
Sure.
Like heartaches and because I've always heard that. I've heard, that's when you write your best music. And you'll kind of notice a lot in the country music industry that when they're happily married, they're not as good of an artist.
Yeah. I've always liked sad songs. So I tend to, even when I'm happy, to write sad songs. But the older I've gotten, the more happy songs I've written, the more songs, and lately a lot of gospel songs. But yeah, when I was younger, I had a friend of mine who was a songwriter. He said, man, you write the saddest songs, but they're so good. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not really sad right now. But
that's just the type you like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I always kid my daughter because she, she's a 13-year-old and she loves the Taylor Swift then and Megan Moroni now. And every song they write is nothing but a heartbreak with a boy, or
Right.
not getting a guy's attention or being cheated on. I'm like, these girls, if they actually had a good guy in their life, they wouldn't have anything sing about or write about. I mean, that's all they talk about. So when you were growing up, that's when you said you first started like loving writing. It just happened, writing, songwriting. So who was like your mentor? Did you have someone that you like looked up to, or someone else in the family maybe that wrote music, or someone you talked to?
Several, in several different genres. I think that's why I span from bluegrass to pop music, because in bluegrass it was Lester Flatt, whose grandmother, or whose mother and my grandmother were sisters. I'm sorry, they were sisters, and so we were around Lester Flatt and that kind of music, which is bluegrass music. Flatt and Scruggs, and they won a Grammy in the 70s, and I didn't know about their music career. I thought they were world famous because they were on the Beverly Hillbillies, because that's what I saw. I saw them on there all the time. That's what was famous.
Yeah, that's what was famous to you.
Yeah. So, but then the more I've learned just how great an artist that Lester is, that's a big influence. Other influences in bluegrass, Rhonda Vincent, obviously, she sang on 3 of my projects, and just been a mentor to me, and very sweet, and always very nice and kind. But when I was younger, in high school, I liked singer-songwriter music. Jim Croce, James Taylor, Harry Chapin. Funny thing is, I've gotten to write with Jim Croce's son, AJ, in my adult life, and I've written with Harry Chapin's brother, Tom. So that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Those are some of my favorite artists. Cat Stevens, Carole King, to get on the female side of things, with the Tapestry album. I love that kind of music, and that happened about my freshman year. So I went all the way through high school listening to singer-songwriter music, and I thought, all you need is a guitar. Except I couldn't play guitar very well. So in high school, my friend, the late Jerry Sadler, could play guitar, and he learned some of my songs. So we would go out to the lake and build a campfire, and of course girls, and play our original music.
I think it's like therapeutic too. Like
it really is.
That's what we got our son for Christmas, as a guitar, because I thought I'd love for him to learn to just for pleasure, not for anything of a career wise, but just to be therapeutic, and sing songs.
Very much so, and I love the fact I did later learn how to play a little bit, enough to write my own songs with my own chord structure.
I think that it's just like a gift some people have, just like any other talent, and some don't. Because your son can play the guitar too,
right?
Matt
and
can
my
play
granddaughter, who surprised me the other night. You mentioned Megan Moroni. She came to the house and played Tennessee Orange for me.
Aww.
On guitar and sang it.
I didn't know she could do that either.
It was great.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Like I said the other day, we went to the Megan Moroni concert, which was incredible. But my favorite part about concerts, I was telling the people I was with, is when they actually talk to you about the song before they sing it. And they say, I wrote this one night after this happened and this. And it has a totally different concept and a meaning every time you hear it after that. And I said, I've always loved that the most, and knowing the whole story behind it from a songwriter's perspective. And I think that started from you, because when we were kids, we'd go to the Bluebird Cafe, and you got to hear it from the songwriter's perspective there, which was the coolest part. And you knew why they wrote it and what was going on in their mind when they wrote it.
It's funny, back to Megan Moroni, but Peter Daniel Newman, who I write a lot with, is a good friend of mine, wrote Georgia Girl with her. That was his first big break. He now has Parmalee's new single out, Cowgirls or whatever. But he was talking about Georgia Girl. She was wanting to write a song about a situation that was actually in her life, and he just happened to be there when it happened. Sometimes it happens that way, and you're always happy to be in the room when that kind of thing happens.
Right. Well, she was talking about one too, that I can't think of the title of the song right now, but she said she had continued to write songs about a bad guy, basically is how she told it. She was like, someone that just continued to wreck my life. And she said, I was always telling my best girlfriends, they'd say, listen to this song I just wrote. And she said, finally one night they said, why are you giving this guy all your songs? She said, we're the girls pick you up after it. We're the ones taking care of you. So she wrote one about the girls. I think that's the name of it. And I never had looked at the song from that perspective. And now it's neat when I listen to the song, knowing that, she actually wrote it for these particular girls she hangs with all the time, because they're the ones pick her up after these heartbreaks, you know? But the heartbreak, like you said, is the easiest thing to write about, not the...
It is.
Not the person that's taking care of it.
When you're really, really happy, it's hard to write about that.
Yeah.
For some reason. It is for me.
It's kind of unfortunate, but yeah, it is. So tell me, how many songs do you think you've written?
About 2,000, I think. I've had 150 recorded. And it goes back so far to just after high school. I wrote with a local guy from Livingston who just had a big hit on Mel Tillis named Jim Bowman. Mm-hmm. And Jim and I wrote together, and he recorded my song on his album in 1983. So I'm old. So in 1983, we had this
throw
cut.
That out there.
And it led me to want to make a record. So unlike the way we do it today, we went to Jamestown, and we recorded an entire album in one setting. I don't know how many hours it took, but we had all the music and the vocals and everything. And that album, I hope, does not see the light of day today, but it was called The Big Picture.
Okay.
And the thing that came from that was the very next year, there was a movie being filmed called No Justice. And the producer was asking for music, and he picked The Big Picture as the closing theme. So he called me, and you'll remember this because you were in this movie. I got you guys in it, you and my son and my nephew.
I remember every detail.
He said, "What would you take for this?" Well, I didn't know what a sync license was, which is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to sign a sync deal, get some money up front, and still get royalties off of that. I didn't know what that was. And I said, well, I've always wanted to be in a movie, so if I can, but I want a speaking part. I don't want an extra role. And he said, I can't promise you anything, but if you'll come here on a Sunday afternoon, you can audition for this one part, which I did and got, and it's one line. It was fun to be a part of that because I got to hang out with Cameron Mitchell, who was like one of my heroes, Uncle Buck on the High Chaparral for you older folks that remember that. He's in several movies, How to Marry a Millionaire with Marilyn Monroe, to many other movies. The Robe, he played God in The Robe. But he was in a lot of movies, and I got to hang out with him every morning. And at the swimming pool where y'all filmed your scene, we would go about 6 a.m. He said, what are you doing in the morning? I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to work out in the pool here at the hotel. So that's what we'd do. I'd go down with him and work out and hear his stories from all the Hollywood days, because he was at least mid-70s then. Yeah. And it was toward the end of his career.
So that was, what it would have been, late 80s.
1989 is when it was released.
Okay.
It was filmed right after The Big Picture. I tell people, that album, I'm glad it's hidden and not many people have it. But really, that's what spurred me on, was that song. I thought, if I can get a song in a movie, I can keep going. And then in the early 90s, I met Jimmy Bilbrey from here in Cookeville, Tennessee, and we started writing, and he come in one night and he said, you got to meet this guy from Tennessee Tech I just met. You got to hear him. It's unreal. And I said, well, bring him to the house one night. And that was Rodney Atkins, who went on to have a great country career. And we wrote a lot of songs, over 50 songs together. And
he just became a close friend, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And he stayed at the house as much as he stayed at his apartment in Cookeville. Helped me coach Little League a little bit. Mm-hmm. And God Only Knows was the big song that he recorded when he got to Curb. Mm-hmm. On the record that got him to Curb, I had 6 songs, but I only got one once he got to the big label.
So how often is it that a song that was recorded years ago might actually still become famous? Like, does that happen much?
It does happen quite often. It hadn't happened to me that much, but it happens quite often where a song that you wrote 10 years ago, somebody will find it and like it and want to record it.
Okay, that's so cool. The movie that you were talking about, that was my 8th birthday. It was in June, and it was
when you filmed your
I turned
part?
8. Yes, I
On that
turned
day?
8. Had my birthday party at the Dairy Queen. I mean, we went from pinning the tail on the donkey at the Dairy Queen in the window to being in a movie that afternoon, and I thought I was the coolest kid. My best friend got to go with us, so it was my best friend Sierra and Matt and your son and my brother Brandon, and I remember every detail. And for those of you who've never been around when there's been a movie filmed, you do the same set and the same thing
Over and over and
27,
over and
30
over.
times. And my part was to jump in the pool and swim across to this particular guy, you know, like beside of him. I was just an extra in the background, a little girl in the background swimming. And so I jumped and swam all day long and jumped and swam all day. But it was just the coolest experience. We couldn't wait for it to come out. And I don't even think that my part was in it. I don't remember. But I
That's
know
in it.
yours is.
I've seen it. My line's in it, but the funny thing is we filmed walking in, then this is movie business that most people probably know, but we filmed walking into the courthouse at Jackson County Courthouse. But because the rooms are so small at Jackson County, once we got inside the building, we had to go to the DeKalb County Courthouse to film the indoor scene.
Yes.
Even though it looks like it's the same scene, you're walking in. And
I have heard that from other people about different movie sets, that they'll do the outside of one area, but the lighting's not good in the inside, so they might go somewhere else, you know, but they blend it together, so it works.
Well, I call No Justice the Variety magazine actually called it a take off the Dukes of Hazzard, modern day Dukes of Hazzard at the time, because it was a B movie at best, you know.
Those of you who
I can still do my line. You want to hear my line?
Yeah, let's hear it.
That was good for nothing revenuers. They shut us down. They busted us. If we hadn't got away, we'd all be in jail.
Now y'all are gonna have to go look for that movie. That's gonna be y'all's your weekend entertainment.
I saw it on YouTube the other day in German.
Really?
German's English subtitles, or maybe it was German subtitles in English. I don't remember.
That's crazy. YouTube has brought out so much from the past. It's so cool for like my kids to see. We were joking about something the other day. We drove them. We were coming to your house, actually. We were coming to visit you, and my husband was talking to the kids in the car, and he said, do y'all know that area there was really big when we were kids? That was called the Mud Hole, and they would go film there, and my kids were like, what? And he said, I'll show y'all when we get home. He said, I can pull it up on YouTube and show you. And I was like, it's cool how you can do that now, you know, and pull things up. I mean, can you even imagine what it'll be like in the future of how much you can actually
My favorite part of the Mud Hole experience from that video is when he says, we're going to make this an annual event every month.
That's definitely small town.
A small town out there.
So how many songs do you think you recorded?
You know, I don't know. I've recorded on those albums probably 40s, early 40, 42, something like that. And then, of course, other people's recorded a lot of my songs, but the songs that I record are special to me because they're who I am. I wanted to get back to my roots, to the Lester Flatt roots. I'd written country and pop since I'd been in Nashville. I'd been trying to write that, but always in the back of my mind was bluegrass music. And basically my first album, Uneven Road, is country music with bluegrass instrumentation. And I never thought it would. I was making it for family and friends, never thought it'd take off. And my producer called me one day on his way back from Florida, he and his wife, and said, you're not going to believe me, but Suzanne and I have been listening to this song, to this album, all the way to Florida and back, and you need to go to approach a label. Somebody will pick this up. I said, you got to be kidding me. So it was IBMA week, International Bluegrass Music Association week in Nashville. So I went that next week, and I met with a guy at a small label, and said, I'd like to play you some songs, see what you think. And I played a couple songs. I won't name the label because they're big now, but they were small then. And I played him a couple songs, and Mark said, we want this project. So I thought, that's too easy. I need to make an excuse. I said, okay, let me get back with you tomorrow. Let me get back with you, because I knew I wanted to be on Rural Rhythm Records, which is Sam Passamano, which had a history, which I had a history with, because 7 Miles from Wichita had been a #1 song by an artist on that label. So I called Sam up, and I went on a Friday. We talked for 3 hours. He never played the first song. It laid there. And we talked about baseball, football, music, his family, my family. And I went home. I thought, he's never going to listen to that. And Monday was my 53rd birthday. You're talking about birthdays a minute ago. It was my birthday when he called me at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and said, we want to sign you. And so that's how I got on Real Rhythm Records for that first album, which I credit them with it charting and being on Billboard and having all the chart singles, because they had the resources to make that happen.
And Howard, that's what I wanted to ask you. So you always hear it's who you know, and is that a lot of it, of like having that connection and being with the right people?
You have to have. You need a publicist. You need just different people working different areas of the
like
whole field of music. I mean, it's to get where you want to get. You can release an album. Americanville, for example, was released. I think it's just as good as Uneven Road, but it was released during COVID. There was no way to promote it. And Rural Rhythm was being bought by the Gaither Group. Being bought by the Gaither Group at the time, and the Gaither Group wanted me to hold off. Well, it had been recorded in 19, and it was 21. Mm-hmm. It had been a couple years, and I didn't want to wait.
Right.
So we decided to release it on World Records, which is mine and Rich's label. So we didn't have the promotional crew. We didn't have anybody to promote it, and nobody was really promoting music during that time. So we didn't have a chart single on it. The best thing that came out of it was the Americanville venue that's in Livingston, which came from the title cut. But
which has big guests appear on it. Every year they have a lineup.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that, about Americanville.
Americanville kicks off May 17th this year with Darryl Worley. But you also have Pam Tillis coming. You have Lori Morgan. You have Tom Douglas, who's one of the greatest songwriters, wrote The House That Built Me, Take a Drunk Girl Home, Little Rock, a lot of big hits. Tom's going to be there as our songwriter. And then, did I say Lori Morgan? Maybe I did.
Would you say it's kind of like, for people that's Livingston, Tennessee, small town? I tell y'all all the time that's a hallmark town that I grew up in and that Mark grew up in. It's just amazing. It's literally the courthouse in the center and little jewelry shops. The jewelry shop's been there 110 years. And it's got little boutiques and antique stores and venues all around it. And right off that town square is where Americanville is that he opened, that he's talking about. And would you say it's kind of like a Bluebird, but in a small town?
It is. It's a little bigger than the Bluebird in Nashville, and it's at the Iron and Oak Event Center, which is owned by friends of ours. And Tina Rogers is my partner in that, and this year she's been the one that's been out doing all the work because of my illness. So she's doing a lot of the work and doing all the work. I said a big part of it. She's doing all of it. She's booked the acts, and she's selling the tickets, and she's getting the promoters and the sponsors and all. But it's a beautiful place. My thought was to have a 1950s like nightclub. That's what I wanted, where people were quiet, they listened, were respectful to whoever was playing the music, and which is kind of like the Bluebird. You know, they have this shh policy. We initiated that same policy in the beginning, and we had a lot of songwriters there, a lot of Hall of Famers, Grammy winners. Really, it's amazing how many people we've had in this small town to come and play for us, and most of them want to come back. Larry Gatlin said, I want to come back. You know, William Lee Golden from the Oaks.
How many does it hold?
It seats about 200, I think. About 200, a little over. Maybe 225. We have some VIP seating in the front. It's very limited, about 30. And then the rest of it's just general admission. But the place is so small. The sound is wonderful anywhere in the building. and it's completely upgraded this year. They've changed everything, changed the sound system, the look, everything about it. So it's going to be a great year for Americanville.
Cool. That's cool. I talk all the time about our
This
little...
is the 4th season, by the way.
Okay. This is the 5th season, I was thinking. This will start the 5th at Americanville. And
You're right.
okay, and those who I'm all the time promoting, not meaning to promote, but I absolutely love our town. And a lot of people come and get Airbnbs there now, and also like come for Christmas in the country. So this is a big time for Americanville is summer. So it starts in May and goes through to fall.
And we have lots of people that come from Chattanooga, Knoxville, Cleveland, Franklin, and they'll come and they'll rent one of those B&Bs and spend the night and then eat there and shop there. So it's good for the community.
I said the fall, but actually there's a Christmas. Doesn't it end with a Christmas show?
It ends with we have a show a month from May through December.
So it goes further than the fall, which Christmas is really big in our town. It's a really big holiday. Okay, so let's talk about for people that does not understand music and just enjoys it on the radio like myself. So talk to me about the songwriter. Like, do you say, I'm going to sit down and write some songs at 2:00 Thursday, and you plot out the time, or is it something like my ideas are nothing with songwriting, but they hit me at 3:00 in the morning, and I got to go get my phone and put it in my notes. So kind of tell me that perspective from the songwriter.
I think most people start out like you. It'll hit them at 3 a.m. or it hits them in mid-afternoon, whenever it hits. And in the old days, we didn't have cell phones, so you had to remember that melody till you could get somewhere to record it. But that's the way almost every songwriter starts. That's how they write, and they write those songs alone most of the time. But once you get in the business, then all of a sudden you got a 10 o'clock and a 2 o'clock and maybe a 6 o'clock on the same day. So you're going to have to write 3 songs that day. And you can be driving into town and have no idea what you're going to write.
Really?
And you have to, that's the professionalism of it. That's where you learn to be creative. And you may go in, you and I have a conversation, and something in that 10-minute conversation spurs the ideal we're going to write that day. Neither one of us had an ideal when we came in there of what we were going to write.
Right. So say that happened. Say we were sitting here writing. Would we just say, oh, yeah, that's great, and then we just start like pitching things to each other and talk about this or that? Is that
going
kind of
back
how it
and
works?
forth, and usually one person's got the instrument, maybe both, or 3. I mean, I've been in the old days, it was 2 people, 3 max. Now, 5, 6 people in a room.
Really?
If you look at the records today, that's just the way they do it. They'll bring in their guitar player. They'll bring in a couple extra people that you don't know. And sometimes you'll have a song basically finished. And I've learned this from Peter Daniel Newman, who wrote Georgia Girl I was telling you about. He does a lot of verse, chorus, and stops because the artist wants to be on the song now. So he saves the second verse for the artist.
Notice that.
And we'll pitch those short versions to people. We have a song out there right now called Marshall Dillon. We're pitching around to different female artists. It's a really cool song, but it's just got a verse and a chorus so that they
have a part in it.
Can have a part in it because they want to.
Well, that's what I was going to say. When so many of these new large name artists, I wrote this. You hear them say that all the time, and I thought, how do they have time to be entertaining on the road, touring, and writing all of these songs? And so it makes more sense. I've said that before. I'm like, they have to be having some time that they've got some songwriters helping them out with this.
Most of the artists today, what it's developed into is teams. They have a team of people that they trust, I know Luke Combs was one of the first to do that brought his own guys, and he says, I'm not writing with anybody. It wasn't in my group before I became famous. And that's what he still does. Garth did that to an extent. He always had a Tony Airica song on an album. Different people that he respected. He would look to them for each album. What's your best song? Mm-hmm. But he didn't always put his name on it. That's the difference today.
Oh.
Tony Airica wrote The Dance by himself. Mm-hmm. Garth's name's not on it.
Right.
But that's. It's just a changing of the guard. It's more going towards the way L.A. has done it for years in New York. So Nashville's becoming more like them.
It is, yeah. It's not just country music anymore. It's the production town of so much stuff now.
It is, and someone may write a part of a song in Nashville, and the chorus may be written in L.A., and a third verse in New York. And even I've gotten into that to an extent, because I'll write with Peter lives in Newfoundland, Canada, and I'll have something that I think's pretty good, and I'll say, hey, you like this? Jump on the second verse, or help me finish the chorus. Or
so do y'all do like a Zoom? Is that how
we
that
do
works?
that a lot. And with the Gospel According to Mark, which was nominated for the Grammy, it was all written on Zoom. The entire album, the concept for that album was developed during COVID. Mark called me, Mark D. Conklin from Jersey, and called me one day and said, I want to do an album. We can't play out anywhere, so you want to write it with me? And it's called The Gospel According to Mark. And I kind of laughed, because Mark Prentice, who's won a Grammy, is the producer. And I said, oh, The Gospel According to Mark, that's pretty cool. And he said, no,
it's a lot of Marks.
I want it to be about the book of Mark in the Bible. And I want it to be first-person accounts. We'll pick out the 12 stories, and we'll write those in first person. And Gloria Gaynor, who wrote I Will Survive back in the 70s, and she narrates it, reads the scripture going into the song, and it just turned into a great concept album. And I was fortunate enough to be on 5 of the 12. We wrote every Monday night at 6 o'clock on Zoom, regardless of where we were. Mm-hmm. I know we were in Florida once and had to quit what we were doing because I had to go write.
But that's cool that we're able to do that in today's world. You couldn't have done that 15, 20 years ago. You had to go to Nashville and set, where everyone could be in Nashville at the exact same time.
Right.
It's so cool that people can do that now.
And Mark and I had met in Nashville in 2002 and became really good friends. And I asked him one time, why did you ask me to write this gospel project with you? And he told me, he said, when we met, if you remember, I was agnostic. He said, and you talked to me about the Bible. He said, and you knew more about it. Scripture, not patting myself on the back, but this is his words, that you knew more about Scripture than anybody I knew, so you're the first person I called. Mm-hmm. There's only 3 writers on that whole project.
And I credit that with, that's how we grew up.
It is.
I've said that in some other podcasts. It's just that's the foundation of our home, and not for 1 year. That's been the foundation of our family for generation after generation after generation.
That's correct.
So, what's one of the proudest songs that you're proud of? Not the most successful. If there's one that you're the most proud of.
Well, if I had to pick one song, it would be on the Gospel According to Mark, and it's the song "O Lonely Day," which is about the crucifixion. And the night we were writing it, I mean, the hair was standing up on. I knew we had a hit. I knew it was going to be a great song, and I think that's the song that led to the Grammy nomination. It was just so powerful, about a person who was following behind Jesus and walking because he was scared, and he was walking further back and watching him go to the cross, but he feels a part of crucifying him, even though he didn't actually do it. Mm-hmm. He feels a part of it because he let it happen. And that's what the song's about. And we all had a part in crucifying Christ, and he died for our sins. And that's, that song's just special to me. I've told Mark I've recorded 3 albums of my own, and I'm more proud of that song than I think of any others. But there are a lot of songs that I'm proud of, that I really like. That one just stands out. My new gospel album, we just had a #1 in February called Gospel Train with Darren and Brooke Aldridge, who were singing with me on it. And that's the title of that album. There's a lot of songs on there that's real personal to me because they were written over a period of time. When I found out that I had pancreatic cancer a year ago this month, I went to Rich and I said, can we make an album? Mm-hmm. And we made this gospel album starting right then because I didn't know how my voice would last. So we recorded it kind of backwards. We did it with a rhythm guitar and my vocal first, and then built the tracks around it, which is different from any other album I've done. You can't tell the difference. I don't think you can tell the difference between that and Americanville and Uneven Road. But the songs on there are not necessarily gospel songs. They're more story songs about with good outcomes, good people. That's how I look at it. But we released it on the gospel.
You know, I'm sure your business in the songwriting and releasing is like so many other businesses. In my world of social media stuff, it's when I'm trying so hard to come up with something I'm so proud of and I put so much time and energy into it, it's usually a flop. It usually is, like, honestly, the one that I try so hard at, and something that'll work and produce so well for a company or go viral will be an accident, or what I call fillers. You know, you have a few little things you call fillers, and you're like, how was that what was supposed to do so well, you know? Yeah. So I try to learn from it and think, what was it in that particular thing that people resonated with or they liked, you know? So I'm sure that you're the same way in your songwriting.
I was told, Ashley Lewis, who was my publicist, told me that it was the most downloaded album that she's ever worked on. And
the latest one? The
latest one. And it was, some of those songs are 10, 12 years old, maybe even older, because it had just been, I knew that if I ever did a gospel project, this would be on it, but I hadn't done one. So I had all these songs ready to go. Yeah. And I think because if I'd have tried to write it all in a month, I don't think I would. I know Dolly Parton can do that. I'm not that good. It takes me some time to get an album completed. Most of those albums took between 2 and 3 years from start to finish, and Gospel Train was out within 6 or 8 months.
When you fully write the song, and like say you're the only songwriter on that song, can you put it out again? So 14 years later, you're like, I think this might resonate more with people today than it did then.
There's I thought about putting the song with Rhonda Vincent. Eric, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's the last song on Uneven Road. No, it's the last song on Uneven Road. And it went number 1. WSM picked it up on
Lead Me Home.
Lead Me Home. It's again one of my favorite songs. WSM picked that up on their Sunday morning, what do they call that? Sunday Morning in the South was the name of the show at the time, and they picked that up and they played it every Sunday. And when they start playing it, everybody else starts playing it. So it went number 1. Of course, I credit Rhonda for a lot of that. She's singing harmonies in the chorus with me on it. But that song's special to me. I was writing with Reed Nilsson, who's one of my favorite co-writers. He wrote This Is My Town. He wrote I Don't Call Him Daddy. He wrote Except for Monday, Lori Morgan. He wrote Little Liza Jane with Vince Gill. He just wrote a lot of songs. He and I wrote about 50 songs, and he had cancer the whole time. And I walked in that day, we wrote Lead Me Home, and he had this melody going. And he said the cancer's back, and there's nothing they can do. And so that day we wrote Lead Me Home. And
you know that feeling now.
I do. So that song's special to me for that. And the only thing I hate about it, the album came out in 2012. And, of course, it charted and did well, and then the singles. But we waited to release that as the last single, and it was released late 2014. He died in November of 2014, and it went number 1 February of 2015. I'm sorry, February 1st of 2015. It was the number 1 song in America. So, well, I think he is looking down. I think he knows it.
Well, I say, like I tell my kids, that wasn't a mistake. Our perception of it, we would have liked for him to have been around to have seen it. But things happen the way they're supposed to. And we don't, and it's hard to understand sometimes to see the big picture, but it goes exactly the way it's supposed to.
Exactly. I remember the last text I got from him. It was during the World Series, in fact, and we were talking about the Giants, and we're playing, and that's his favorite team because he's from out west. And I said, well, our song is number 8 this week or whatever it was. And he said, son, you got a hit on your hands. It's going number 1. And I always remember that.
Mm-hmm. He knew it. So how do you overcome the defeat? Like when you've been shut down, you thought you had it going. We all have defeat in life. And right now you've got one of the biggest defeats that you've ever thought you would face, with cancer. But like, how do you think that as a singer and songwriter that you handle defeat?
You just, as a songwriter, it happens a lot. You get told no a lot more than yes. You get told we're not interested a lot more than we'll consider that. You just have, it just makes me want to work harder. Mm-hmm. It makes me want to go back and, okay, well, what are they finding wrong in this? And if they'll answer that question, I'll ask it. Mm-hmm. What's the problem with it? And go back and try to fix it or just get better.
Right.
I know people who have gotten so discouraged from the no's in Nashville that they just come home and quit. That's never been me. I've watched a lot of people quit. Had different partners in my music business that have quit. Mm-hmm. They all, at the end, it was just me because I just refused to.
You're not going to.
I just refused to. And I looked
at that from your dad.
I looked at the Grammy last year saying this is a culmination of 30 years of hard work to get this nomination because they're hard to get. I mean, you got 5 nominees out of thousands of.
Most people are never going to be able to say they had a Grammy.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I tell my kids.
But we didn't win. Corey Henry won in our category, which was.
But you were nominated.
Roots Gospel, best Roots Gospel album is a category. By the way, any of these songs we're talking about, you can find at markhouser.bluegrass.com. Okay,
and we'll have that at the end of the podcast also, so you guys can get all that information. I tell my kids when it comes to defeat, which we get it doesn't matter the age. It does not matter the age. And we get temptations no matter the age in life. And I think it's being teachable. If you ever think, you know it already, but being teachable, I've told my producer that of the podcast, I've not been trained in this, and I'm giving this podcast thing a try, and I tell my producer that, I'm like, listen, I'm trainable. Tell me. I just want to be Airica. I'm going to get on there and do my thing. You tell me what I need to do that's the correct way or shape me the way I need to be as far as a podcaster. I just want to be Airica, and I think that's it, is just to be teachable in anything you do in life.
That's why I try to write with people that's had a lot of success. I mentioned Jim McBride. I think before we got on the podcast, Jim wrote Chattahoochee, Chasing That Neon Rainbow, 23 number ones from artists from Waylon Jennings to Alan Jackson, a lot of Alan Jackson, just to learn from him. And we've written 3 songs. 2 of them's already been recorded, and the third one's about to be. So it's been a really good connection for me. But people like that's older and been there, I want to learn from them. But a lot of things you have to learn from yourself.
Experience.
To teach, it's just experience. As you know, I preach. And I audio record every time I've spoke in front of a crowd for myself. I don't share it with people. I did share it with Jim McBride. I'll tell you that story in a minute if we have time. But I do it to correct myself. Okay, what could I do better? How could I do this better? How could I make this point stronger or whatever it is? But the funny thing was, Jim McBride played Americanville, and I did not know him. Tina and I had breakfast with him, Tina Rogers, and I had breakfast with him that morning after. Excuse me. And we didn't talk music then. We didn't talk music the whole time. We got to talking about religion. And he had been in church and had dropped out and wasn't going to church at the time. And I said, well, I preach. And he said, why don't you send me one of your sermons? So the next Sunday I sent him a sermon. I thought, well, that'll suffice. He was being nice. So the next Monday, I hadn't sent a sermon yet. By Monday, and he said, where's my sermon? He texted me. So I started sending it to him, and over a 10-month period of doing that, we got closer. He got back in church, he and his wife, And we started writing. That's what led to our writing. It was 10 months later, after all this religious discussion, and we got back into writing some really cool songs. But I have experiences like that with everybody. When you write with somebody, you open your heart, and they open theirs, so you get to know them on a very personal level. Sure. So in my book Seeds, there's 50 different songwriters mentioned, co-writers that I've written with through the years. And that's probably not half of them.
Right.
But those mean a lot to me, and those songs do, so I included it in there in the book, and tell the story behind the song.
Right. Which is the best part, I think, the story behind it. Do you have any advice for others, like young people and old alike, that thinks they would love to write music or has wrote hundreds of songs and never been able to get them out anywhere? Or just advice in life, really, when it comes to...
Do it. Do it while you can. Have no fear. Don't worry about it. If somebody else likes it or not, it may just be for you. Mm-hmm. But, I'm writing with a young lady from Livingston now. I think she's 26 years old, and very talented. And I feel, I hope I've helped her some. We've written 3 or 4 songs now, but you see people like that just want to do it, and they're not afraid to put themselves out there. And other people, they hold back. Mm-hmm. But they have a lot of talent. They just hold it back.
They don't have the confidence to go for it. Mm-hmm.
Life's short at best, and go for it. Go for whatever your passion is. Mm-hmm. I always say, I've always been fortunate enough in my life that everything I've done, I've had a passion for doing. From coaching football for 40-something years to music, I just have a passion for it. If you have a passion for it, pursue it.
Right.
You don't know where it's going to lead. Yes. And it doesn't matter your age. I was 53 when I signed my first record deal. I was 65 when I was nominated for a Grammy Award. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wasn't a young man. It wasn't easy for me. In my 20s, Nashville laughed at most of my songs. Mm-hmm. In my 30s, they started paying attention, but it was in my 40s before I started having songs recorded.
Right. You can't give up.
Can't give up.
And that's my whole purpose for Airica on Air, is I just want to inspire people and enrich lives. And I hope that this podcast today has enriched and helped someone listening to it so much. I really appreciate you coming on air and doing this today for me.
Thanks for inviting me. I enjoyed it.
And I know everyone else is always going to associate you and remember you for the songwriting and the music, but I'm going to remember you for helping me walk on the ceiling in Granny's kitchen as she's cooking at night as a little girl, and throwing me up in the air in the swimming pool, doing flips and cheerleading. Yeah, that's my memories of you. It's not, these albums are incredible that's sitting on this table, but that's the things that's going to be my memory of you. As my husband likes to tell people, as a dentist, that's just not his legacy. His legacy is his kids.
Right.
You know, and same with you. I'm so proud of the career you have done, and in the career you'll have even after you're gone, from the music you've wrote and everything. But your legacy will be more of the memories you've made that's in people's hearts.
Matt and Hannah, you, Brandon, Maddie, Hudson, and Jed.
Your grandkids and your kids, yeah. And I am.
And hopefully Hannah has some children. She just got married last year.
Hannah is his daughter. He has 2 children. He has Matt and Hannah, and Hannah's his daughter, who just recently got married. And I'm going to throw it out there that I'm his favorite niece.
Yeah.
Because I'm the only one. But we didn't have to. We could leave that part out. Yeah. But definitely that. So as we close here, can you tell us where people can find these albums that you've released, and also your 2 books that you have?
Okay. All the albums are on all streaming services, iTunes, Spotify. I'm not good at all that stuff, but they're on all those. But they're also at markhouserbluegrass.com, which I prefer you to buy from because I get all the money there. But the books are on Amazon as well, and anywhere that books are sold, basically they're out there. My publisher's out of Colorado, and he handles all that. Mm-hmm. And I'm just glad to have him out there. But And I'm glad to call you my niece. I'm very proud of you and what you've accomplished and what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I love you.
Love you.